Do it? No.
Can we try?
Okay. Welcome everyone to the November 3rd zoning board of appeals meeting. We're going to start this meeting at 7 o'clock. I'd like to start out by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation. Liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. General housekeeping things. We need everybody to sign in. Kevin, was there a sign up sheet up there?
Yep.
Okay.
Should be one right up.
There's a sign up sheet over there on the side. If you're in the room, please make sure you sign in. When we invite people up for the applications, I request that you state your name for the record and your address from where you're from. That goes for the people on Zoom for stating the name and address as well. And the other thing I'll mention, emergency exits are around the corner or straight out the atrium here if there anything's needed. We will start out with a couple of things. First, we'll do roll call. Start out, Robert Peckham, present. Beth Mossworth.
Here.
John Miglerini.
Here.
Christian Chamberlain.
Here.
Heather Robinson.
Here.
Jesse Redlow.
Here.
Timothy Harrington.
Here.
All present. Next, I would like to ask for a motion for the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes from the October 6, 2021 zoning board of appeals meeting as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Miglerini. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? And Christian has abstained. So we will start out with application 2021-090 and 091, which were postponed from last month for Rochester Regional Health. Is there a representative available? Heather?
Paul, you need to unmute yourself. Paul or Mike?
Hello.
Hello.
This is Michael Schick representing ID Sign Systems for RH.
Mr. Harrington, you want to start?
Hello, this is Tim Harrington. I spoke to Paul Dudley regarding this. I shared our discussion with the Board of Seven here. So if you want to add some thoughts out, why don't I summarize is adding an additional sign to the building, add an additional sign to the ground space so that you accomplish signage for drivers on 390 as well as signage for those coming in and out. Redundant, but not seen from locals and at a large scale because of the significant size of the building and of the distance from the roads. What else can you tell us about this request?
That's Tim, thank you. I'm just checking, you can hear me, correct?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
great. All right, yes. Basically, the plan is you currently have approved a entrance sign for Rochester Regional Health on the Erie County road access. And we have one set of...
Dudley, I apologize for interruption. Can you just introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Paul Dudley. I'm president of ID Sign Systems. And I believe I'm here with Mike Schick, and I believe Liz Kaufman-Dentz is also on the call from Rochester Regional Health. So yes, we've currently have a approved application in with the board for two signs on this site. One is an entrance sign. There are existing signs on the site, so we're reusing one existing entrance sign. And when we have a permit to put one set of channel letters on the building in the northeasterly aspect, so that drivers leaving Rochester can see the sign. we are putting in this, we're making this variance application for 2 additional signs. One is going to be on the southeasterly aspect. The building is slightly angled to 390 elevation on the road. So there'll be an exactly similar set of letters facing slightly southeast. And there is an existing sign that was installed during the Delphi period of ownership. Down in the landscaping, it's adjacent to the helipad, which I understand has been used once in its life. And that existing structure, we're proposing to put a LED reader board onto that structure, exactly the same size as the existing sign. And the use of that sign won't be for video. It will be for static messaging that only RRH will be showing their own messaging on. So it most likely will be showing a name, or Liz can expand a little more maybe on what they hope to do. But the plan is to use it only as a owner-owned sign to actually display static messaging. But they want to have the control of the LED format so that they control it from the main building. So we're proposing for 1 additional set of letters on the building and that reader board on that existing structure, which is adjacent to the helipad.
And that also creates a sign, maximum square footage.
Correct.
Right. It's also, I think it's also worth noting that that sign that's adjacent to the helipad is almost all encased in foliage from the backside. So if you're on Erie, you pretty much can't even see it if you're looking for it.
Is that the way it's going to stay, sir? Paul?
Yes, it is. Yes, there are mature trees behind it, and it was landscaped with a particular view to basically surround the sign so that it was only viewable from the east.
Okay. Are there any questions from members of the board?
No.
I was wondering what sort of messages, I mean, I'm not sure if you would know, but what messages might be displayed on the reader board as people are driving out of Rochester? It'd be like, well, what sort of information would be needed to be displayed for people to see from that perspective?
This is Liz Kaufman-Dents from Rochester Regional. Currently, we really have not discussed fully what would be on that sign. It most likely would just be our logo in our white and blue color. So it would just say Rochester Regional Health to, we don't want scrolling letters. We don't want, happy holidays, drive safe, buckle up, that's not our model. So it most likely will just say Rochester Regional Health. I doubt very rarely it would change. It might change seasonally for color, but we're not looking at any messaging to change on an hourly or daily basis.
Is there any reason that you wouldn't just make that to a static sign then instead of a LED reader?
It has been discussed that, we could, but at this time, we're discussing which departments would go in there. And if any of them, and again, they're not clinical, we're not doing hospital care there. We have no plans to do that there. But if we were to put one of our larger, storage facilities there, or a branch of us, say our foundation, Rochester Regional Foundations, we certainly would like to be able to state that that's where the foundation office have moved to.
Okay. Thank you for answering that.
Now, on West Henrietta Road, there's existing signs. My understanding is that some of them will not get used. Do we know what will become of those vacant signs on West Henrietta Road?
That property is being subdivided and would be the new landowners. I actually think he's, taking those signs down. But that would come from the new owner where we've subdivided that property. So we won't be using the West Henrietta Road entrance as our main entrance. Our main entrance will be off Erie Station.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other
Mr.
questions?
Chairman and board, I just to clarify that the applications are for square footage and the second wall sign. So the existing ground sign,
they can do what they want.
There's, right, correct.
Right,
Okay,
So, I mean, the questions are valid, but
right.
it's an existing sign, so there,
Yep.
it's not under for a variance right now.
thank you. Appreciate the input. So we're good on that from the board standpoint.
Mhm.
Is there any questions from other members of the audience, either here or virtual?
I have nothing at this time.
Thank you, Heather. With that, this application is closed, or these applications are closed.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to applications ZBA 2021-090 and 091 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held a public hearing, has considered all relevant information, and has considered a potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, as the signage design places signage to face traffic on 390 and the other for traffic entering from Erie Station. Therefore, the character of the neighborhood will not change from the previous tenants of these buildings. 2, the variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative because of the size of the parcel as well as the placement of the building, the distance from building to road, and the angle from each building face to a viewable angle dictates the needs for large and redundant signage. 3, the variance is substantial. The request is significantly greater than code allows, yet the proposed signage makes sense given the scale of the building and distance from the roads. 4, the variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions. And 5, the difficulty related to the variance was not self-created. The previous tenants experienced the same signage challenges. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approves the variance as presented.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Christian. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for
Thank you.
listening.
Good evening.
We appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Now we are listening to applications 2021-093 by Angelique and James Cook. Welcome. Please come to the podium. State your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Angelique Cook. I live at 14 Blueberry Crescent.
Welcome. John, you want to start?
Yeah.
So you're going to add to the existing deck that's there, or you're replacing the whole entire thing?
We're replacing the whole entire thing. And what happened was when we bought the house in 1994, it's the same deck that was up. But the previous owner, I don't know if it's one before us or the old lady that was there, put that deck up and it's in the easement. So in order to do the repair work and stuff, we need to have the variance.
Can you explain what the new deck is gonna be made out of and?
I'm into the composite.
Okay.
And you're going to make it 5 by 10 or 10 by 10?
I think it's going to be 10 by 10 since I had to come here. I'm widening it so that way my husband's wheelchair can get out there and open the doors.
Okay.
And I just want to ask, because visually it doesn't look like this from what I could see. But your deck that's there already, is that 5 foot wide by 10 feet deep already?
Actually, it's 5 foot wide and 9 3/4.
But who's counting?
I measured it because
So that's the size that it is right now.
Mhm.
Is it deeper or wider?
It's
Closer, longer going towards the road or?
longer going towards the
Okay,
road.
that's why it didn't look like it. Yeah, and will that have a ramp or anything, or is that going to be?
No, we're not going to do the ramp yet because they would like him to walk. He's just not very steady. So
Okay.
And does
But
he
he
use
does-
a walker or something?
he has a walker. He has canes. So it's just that right now we can't open the door all the way for when we bring him in and out. And this would allow us to open the door completely.
Yep,
Mhm.
and it sounds like it'll be nice too.
And Ms. Cook, will the size of this deck meet your needs in the future as well?
Yes, as far as I know, it will.
Okay.
Great. Are there any questions, more questions from the board? And are there any questions or comments from members of the audience here or virtual? No?
Nothing.
Thank you, Heather. With that, this application is closed. Okay. We'll be one more.
Mr. Chairman, with regards to application ZBA 2021-093 for an area variance, I move to approve. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and heard public hearing, has considered all relevant information and has considered the potential benefits to the application versus the potential detriments to the neighborhood or community in relation with such variance. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of facts. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the characteristic of the neighborhood. The deck will enhance the lot in the yard. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible study, as there was already a deck there, and the deck will be expanded for wheelchair access. The variance requested is not substantial. The variance will not result in a negative effect on the physical or environmental conditions, will actually enhance the look. The difficulty resulted to the variance was not self-created, and be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approves this variance as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Jesse Redlow. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank
All
you.
opposed? Motion carries. Have a nice day. Thank you. We'll keep track of that. Talk to Heather too. Thank you. Can she? Heather said. Hang on one more. If we have to change that. Oh, it has been reached. Okay. Sorry about
The
that.
executive order was reissued by Governor Hochul when she was appointed or whatever as governor. So board members can vote and be present at boards virtually.
Okay, thank you. Makes it easier. So the next one we have is application 2021-094. It is by Taylor O'Leary, and you're looking for 1.2 foot side setback for a shed. As you heard earlier, please mention your, state your name and address for the record.
Taylor O'Leary, 91 Campfire Road North.
Welcome. Beth, would you like to start?
Sure. Ms. O'Leary, thank you for coming. So in reviewing your application, when you found that you had this concrete pad, is that when you decided that would be a good way of utilizing that by getting a shed, or were you already planning on getting a shed?
Yeah, so when I first bought the house, they told me that the concrete pad was there and that there used to be a shed on it and it had just crumbled down. So I had always planned on eventually clearing out that area and then putting a shed back up, not realizing that the concrete pad was put there without town approval to begin with. So I don't know how long it's been there. I think that it goes back a long time. The goal was always to put one up eventually. I just figured there was already some permission since the pad was in the ground, not realizing that wasn't the case.
Okay. And will the size of the shed meet all of your storage needs?
Yeah, I just need some basic 7x7, I think is the one that I was going to buy. I just need some basic like yard tools, lawnmower, that kind of thing.
Okay. And will there be any electric running to the shed, or is it just a standalone?
Nope, just standalone.
Thank you.
How big is the existing pad? Is it 7 by 7 or bigger?
It's a little bit bigger. It's 8 by 7.5, about, longer coming into the yard. So I was, I kind of have room to put the shed more forward on the concrete pad if need be further into my yard too.
Just to clarify, on your, one of your questions you answered with the, on your application, you said that you were unaware the previous owner had installed the concrete pad?
Yeah, I didn't know that. Well, I didn't know that it had been installed without permission. I had just assumed everything was done.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought, because I wasn't sure if you just didn't know about it until the snow melted, or you thought it was already within code. Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions from the board? No. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns from members of the audience?
I have nothing.
Okay. With that, we can close this application. Beth?
Mr. Chairman, in regards to application ZBA 2021-094, for an area variance, I move to approve as follows, whereas the zoning board has 1, duly advertised and held a public hearing, 2, has considered all relevant information, and 3, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties. Other homes have storage sheds for storage. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative based on the topography of the yard is the best location for placement and to utilize concrete pad in place. The variance is not substantial. The variance will not have a negative effect on the physical or environmental conditions. Difficult related to the variance was self-created, and be it further resolved that based on the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approve as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Jesse Redlow. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion carries.
Thank
very
you.
much. Good luck.
Have a good night.
Next, we have application 2021-095 by Josh Sante. Welcome.
My name is Josh Sante. I live at 31 Gatehouse Trail.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sante. Can you explain to us a little bit of what you're doing? I know you're looking for the 30-foot front setback for a garage addition. Can you explain more of like the purpose of the addition and kind of what your plans are?
Sure. My mother is elderly and she currently lives with us, but she lives in, a very small space in the house. And my wife and I have been talking about having my mother-in-law move in with us as well, because we love the neighborhood. We like living in Henrietta. We've been here for a long time. So we would like to convert the garage existing structure into additional living space that would give us approximately 500 more square feet of living space. And if we do that, of course, we would need to put a garage in because code requires that we have a garage.
Okay.
So I'm sorry.
So the existing garage space is going to be converted into living, and then basically you're going to be creating a garage in front of it. That's kind of what the addition's for.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Mhm.
All right.
Was there any other options that you explored with regards to adding this space as compared to changing the garage? Could you consider adding it to the back or the side or some other method of this?
Well, the setback where we are on the side of Gatehouse Trail that we're on, we have very limited space in the backyard. So if we were to extend into the backyard, that would eat quite a bit into the backyard. We did consider going up, but with 2 elderly family members moving in, we would prefer to be all on one floor and on the same floor with them if they need us.
Have you explored possibly going to the side of your house? Like if you're looking at your house to the right and maybe pushing it back a little bit? So
Going
I mean,
towards
they're
the back.
probably, yeah, going towards the back, there might be a side setback, but I mean, from looking at the map, it looks like you might have some room there.
On the west side?
Yeah, correct.
On the west side of the house? We have not. There are some large trees over on that side of the house, and the current floor plan of the house would mean that we would need to do some significant demolition to the existing interior rooms of the house
Okay.
in order to add space to that side of the house.
So I guess what made you come up with the 27 by 25? It's just kind of the garage.
That's the existing size of the garage. It's
okay.
actually 20, it says on the sheet there, 24.3 feet, I think is what it is. I measured it out and it's actually more like 24.6 from footer to footer. And then it's approximately 27 feet wide. So we would essentially just be putting an identical garage right in front of the existing garage.
Have you already built up plans for this? Have you designed plans for what it would look like?
Well, we've only done some, scratchy drawings on, lined paper. We wanted to make sure that we could get the variance before we fit the bill for an architect to come in and draw plans for us, because that can be very expensive.
So one of the concerns or questions that I have, the elevation of your front yard is relatively steep. And if you put a garage out to the front, what would you, would you build it, cut it down into the ground a little bit? Is that what your plan is?
Well, that's one of the options that my wife and I have discussed, and I have spoken with a contractor, and he suggested that we could do something like that, grade down a couple of feet so that the pitch of the driveway isn't so steep. That certainly would be helpful to all the family members getting it up and down the driveway, especially when the weather turns icy and snowy.
The other concern that comes to us, well, there's a couple of things. One, I'm going to read a few things into the record here in a moment. But one of the concerns that we also have is the length of the driveway, right? We pay attention to that because of parking. Obviously you want to use a garage, but there's also the likelihood that at some point in time, people will want to put cars in the driveway. That creates space issues there. So that's why we try to do these offsets and other things. The end result is you're shortening that distance, and it's a substantial difference that you're taking out of there. So one of the things that I will say, I will read a few things into the record if it's okay now. If you're
Can I just ask a question that piggybacks off what you just said, Mr. Chairman?
absolutely.
So in terms with the driveway, how many vehicles are you planning to try to park in the driveway after you do this, should you be granted the variance?
There would be 4 vehicles in the driveway. And when I came in and started the whole process of finding out what I needed to do to get the variance, I did ask, and I was told that I can extend the width of my driveway to at least as wide as the garage itself structure. Currently, that's about 3 feet shy. I was also told that we are allowed to go within 5 feet of the property line. Within a certain distance of the road, then the driveway would have to narrow back down again. So our plan would be that we would park kind of chevron.
Okay.
We would park, pull up, and then everyone would park.
So under those conditions, based on your initial measurements and impressions, you would be able to fit all 4 vehicles in the driveway without overflow into the street?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we would have actually about 3 to 4 feet of space before we even got close to the end of the driveway.
Makes sense to me. Thank you,
Are
sir.
you parking any cars in the garage?
Currently, right now, we are not, because we use that space for recreational vehicles. My son races dirt bikes. We have, I have lots of tools that I use. But as we go through this process, a lot of the things that I keep in the garage will be moving down into the basement. So ultimately, we would like to park a couple of cars in the garage. My children are getting older. My son is 14, so he's going to be driving in a couple of years. My daughter is 13. She's going to be driving. So as nerve wracking as that can be, it is something that's on the horizon. So we have given that some thought, and I believe that we'd be okay.
Question I have now, with the addition you want to have, is it just going to be like living space for your mother-in-laws and your mother? Or is it just going to be also going to be more like a in-law apartment separate from your living space for you and your
We're
wife?
not
or-
going to do an in-law apartment where we have common space that, we feel that doing an in-law apartment kind of separates them away from the family, and we're very close. So we want, she has been very clear that all she really wants is a little room. And we would like to give her a big enough room that she could have a nice chair in. And when I say she, I mean both my mother-in-law and my mother. They're being very meek about it, and we'd like them to be comfortable.
Okay. And because I see with your garage, you have a 2-car garage right now with two separate, two separate doors, basically.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's within, I know you want the space you're requesting for both, I guess I'm assuming 2 bedrooms.
There would be 2 bedrooms, and there would be a space directly adjacent to the existing, what is now our kitchen and our dining room, the doorway in from the garage into the house. We would, make a first floor laundry area right there and a little mud room. So there would be approximately a 6-foot by 8-foot room that would be just a kind of a storage utility space for everyone to use, a common area for laundry and things like that.
Okay, because I was just kind of wondering if it was something to, because I have a 1-car garage myself in my house. So I didn't know if using part of the space in the garage to extend out for the extra space for the bedrooms was a feasible alternative or not. And still leaving 1-car garage for your house. Therefore, you meet the requirement to have a garage without having to necessarily add on in front of your home. I don't know how much space that would give you, or if that's adequate or not. I just trying to think if there's any way to basically, instead of having the entire garage turned into living space and then another garage being built, using half of the garage that's already existing as living space and leaving the other half for your recreational vehicles. And like you said, a lot of your tools were going to going down to the basement. I didn't know if that, if it's not, it's fine, but I just wasn't sure if that was a feasible alternative to what you're proposing.
We did consider that, but when we look at the square footage, our house is just under 1,000 square feet on that first floor. So when you talk about having 4 adults and 2 kids that are going to be adults pretty soon, that's a very small amount of space for us. We've certainly considered other options. Maybe moving to another house would be, something that would be a better use of our money, to get the space that we need. But we keep coming back to the fact that we really like where we live right now. We don't want to leave.
Okay, I just want to throw that out there. I didn't, just curious if that
Certainly.
was your thought of that as well.
Now, on the back of your house, is that a porch?
There is a porch back there. Yes. It is in not very good shape. I'm not sure which owner built it, but it was originally built to be just a screened in summertime thing. And at some point, one of the previous owners put mismatched storm windows in all around to try and turn it into at least a 3-season room. And it's never really been very much use to us in its current, I mean, it's leaky, it's wet. So our plan was to take that down because it really doesn't serve any purpose.
Okay. Yeah, because I just didn't know if you could possibly, maybe now hearing that it's not usable, maybe tearing it down and creating the space back there that you need.
That is something that we considered. It is a significantly smaller amount of space than we would gain by going into the garage.
So at this moment, I'd like to read some of the things in the testimony that we received from residents in the neighborhood. Some of these were by phone, some of them were by email. I'm just reading them verbatim. The 2 phone calls first, Mike Daly of 30 Gatehouse Trail states that he lives across the street and fully supports the garage addition as he would support any neighbor improving their home. Next, we had an anonymous neighbor call in from Gatehouse Trail, states she is very opposed to the application as the homeowner should focus efforts on maintaining the house that is currently there. It was, if it was for a tree or a fence, she would be okay with it, but not for a garage variance. Would like to see the house updated and renovated. Well, that's an opinion. We also have a letter from Christy Juby of 15 Gatehouse Trail opposing the variance, and an anonymous letter from Gatehouse Trail neighbors also opposing the variance. We have a letter to the zoning board. Oh, this is this woman. Dear Madam and Sir, I strongly oppose the request to change the garage setback. A garage sticking out that far will completely change the nature of the street and neighborhood and create a bad precedent. The street view would be forever changed. Other homeowners will want to use their front yards to increase the square footage of their homes, and it will dramatically change the neighborhood. Because of my work schedule, I'm unable to attend, but that is her comments. And then we have another one with pictures of your property from the road, normal type stuff you'd see, and a drawing from the aerial views, maybe Google Maps or something with a drawing of what you basically supplied to us. And then another note that says, dear members of the zoning board, November 3rd, on behalf of a number of residents that were nervous about coming to the public hearing, I'm writing to address a concern. A 30-foot setback for a garage on the main feeder road off Pinnacle would not be in keeping with the existing neighborhood appearance. It would truly be an unsightly look. This house at 31 also houses other vehicles they claim are unlicensed that tear up and down the road all summer months. So that's a comment they made, and it is what it is. These are things that we're obviously mentioning in the evidence and things that we weigh out when we're deciding this.
Certainly. If I may just make a point, there are several houses in my development that already have garages built in front of their existing garages. Fawn Ridge right around the corner from me, Sandlot. There is a house on Gatehouse Trail.
Where on Gatehouse? Because I was looking for this and I did not see it unless it's like very far and back or something.
I think it's further around because Gatehouse Trail curves all the way around and meets up with, and I cannot think of the name of the street that it ends on, but there are 2 entrances off Pinnacle Road into our neighborhood, and it's about 3/4 of the way around. I'm sorry, I do not have an address.
Nope, that's fine. So we definitely have a substantial amount of pushback from the neighborhood, as you can hear from the letters and phone calls that were made and recorded by the town clerks. It is something that we will consider here. Does everybody, I'm sorry, I should ask, is there any other questions from the members of the board? Beth,
So
are you-
I think I wanted to ask if the current, and I sympathize with having stuff that fills the garage and not having room for vehicles, but if the current garage is used for stuff and you build a new garage and fill it with stuff, the existing count of cars plus the potential additional in-law plus the potential for children adding cars means you have less of a solution for parking and you're exchanging one issue for another issue. So what do you imagine doing with all those cars? Will you use the garage space for the cars? And what do you think is the ultimate solution for all these cars that you eventually have at your residence?
Well, as I stated, once we get the living space for everybody sorted out, currently right now, the basement we have an egress window, and my wife and I are using that as our sleeping space down there. So it's not very conducive to having tools, woodworking things that are currently in the garage. Those would be moved down into the basement, which would clear out a significant amount of space in the existing garage.
I did have one more question. So you currently have a 2-car garage, and code, you only need to have one. Have you looked at just converting some of the space into living space?
Well,
That's what I'd asked already.
Oh, okay, sorry.
yes,
And
and
that's
we did consider that. It's just the amount of space, as I said, right now, we're looking at, under 1,000 square feet. I think it's 950 square feet. So to bring, my mother-in-law and my mother into the space, it would be very cramped for them. So we would prefer to make it a good living space for them.
Even if you used like the half the garage and then the porch portion that you wanted to tear down, and I don't know if you want to rebuild anything there, but if you had like an L shape, instead of just having it as a square, you can use half the garage and then use where the porch is now as space as well. And that's another option that I'm not sure, but.
Or remove the porch and build backwards. Is that an option?
Well, we've considered that, but as I said before that, our backyard is very small. The setback on Gatehouse Trail on our side of the road, we're very far back off the road. We have very small backyard. So if we were to do that, we would be losing a significant amount of our backyard. It's not the end of the world. It's just something that we prefer not to do.
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any more questions from board members?
Yes. In regards to this garage, have you begun to price out adding that addition, given the fact that the driveway has quite the slope? And in order to get the correct type of foundation put in, I'm assuming that would be a larger cost to put in that garage. Have you done any outsourcing or bidding for that?
I have actually. The numbers that I've been quoted so far is approximately $140 per square foot. Now, if we were to, because we'll be turning our existing garage into living space, we're going to be able to save a significant amount of money by doing that. Whereas a garage is not going to be, there's no plumbing, there's, just rudimentary electric for lights and garage door openers and things like that. So in order for us to expand out the back or out the side, that cost would go up closer to $160 a square foot.
Mhm.
So this is a way that we can use existing structure and existing infrastructure. And of course, when it comes to, putting another bathroom in that space, we'll be able to run the plumbing and be able to tie into sewage and have the correct slope on all of the pipes. Whereas if we were to try and do that in another space in the house, we would have some difficulty with that. This is according to, I spoke with Doug Schimpf, who does a lot of construction around, he's a general contractor.
Okay. And in terms of, you said that your two children are soon to be drivers. Good luck with that. But would that add to more vehicles in the driveway if one of them happened to have their own, and then you're looking at not being able to park Chevron and then pushing one car out into the road?
Well, and that is something that we have considered. And as I said, we would, the goal is to clear as much out of the garage as we can now that I use that space for woodworking and, I have a lot of tools out there. We also use it for a lot of storage. And again, that storage that we use out in the garage could be down in the basement if my wife and I weren't currently sleeping and living down in the basement.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions from members of the audience, either in person or virtual?
I have none online.
Okay. Do we want time to consider this at the end of the session?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to table this, which means we're going to have you have a seat. And at the end of the session, we're going to talk between ourselves and figure out what the answer is for this.
Okay.
It is complex because of the nature of what it is. So that's why we'll do that.
Certainly.
So,
And I understand that. Absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
thank you. So have a seat. Don't leave. We will call you back up later. Let me just write a note. Now we're gonna have application 2021-096, 097, and 098. And I don't know if I am gonna try to say the name because I'll let you say that.
Good evening. I'm Richard Battisti. I'm with Faber Builders. We built the home for our buyers, Ganga and Chandra. And we're here to ask for relief for a driveway that is closer to the property line and wider than the code allows. During the construction of the house, they approached our driveway contractor and paid him extra to have the house, they had to have the driveway widened without actually going through Faber, so we didn't know anything about it. At the time of C of O, it was brought up that it was too wide, so we've made a joint application, or I'm here with them to try to get them the relief so that they don't have to tear the driveway up.
Good.
I just want to clarify here. So first I reached out to Favor representative.
You justice.
Could you state your name too for the record,
I'm
please?
sorry, Steve.
Sorry, my name is Ganga Kandel, 76 Candleford Heights, West Henrietta. So I just want to clarify on his comment that I appraised to the sales representative of Favor and asked if we can extend the driveway. And I was told that, Favor cannot do that at that point, but I can reach out to the paving company. And then I found the site manager of the builders, and I talked to him about, and he also answered me the same. And he gave me the number of the paving company, so I reached out to them. And the paving company told me that, okay, so now we can extend before we close the house without any problem. But after we close the house, I need to apply and get the permission, and you need to go through the different process. But if they do before closing, they will take care of everything. That's what they told me. So they told me I just pay them directly, without involving the Favor in this, transaction. So I did. And
I will say, I'm sorry that they told you something that's not appropriate. There's a few things that happen that we pay attention to here at the zoning board. One is we always pay attention to property lines. And from what I understand, this driveway is over the property line by 6 or 7 inches. And go ahead.
You're correct. In one spot, there's about 6 inches over. And we were going to actually cut it for them before, but then we said we're coming in for an application. Let's wait and see what exactly happens.
Well, that will be cut. I mean, that's going to happen.
Yeah, that goes without saying.
So that one will be cut. So cutting will be happening one way or another. Cutting will be happening. There is a handful of permits here. And Jesse, I'm sorry, I'm taking your.
No, I'm happy to jump in on this one.
Go.
So you acknowledge, Mr. Battisti, that this is over the property line.
Yes, there's.
So when you spoke to us earlier in testimony and you said it's approaching the property line, you're actually saying you're acknowledging that it's over the property line.
Yeah, I think I provided an instrument survey for it. And that if I
You did. What you just said a couple minutes ago contradicted it. That's why I'm asking for the clarity.
I apologize if I said that. We're asking for 0 for it to go to the property line. We acknowledge that, yes, part of it is about 6 inches.
And you are aware, because Faber does a lot of construction. So you're aware that, you're supposed to get a variance before constructing something that goes against code.
Yes, and as I explained, we contracted with Parrington Paving to do it, to put in a 24-foot wide driveway. So end to end, the exact width of the garage. And again, they did this without Faber's, at least the offices.
At least without your knowledge.
Sure, yes.
According to their account, they did speak to Faber. So if I could offer a friendly piece of advice, let's make sure that that information gets trickled down your organization so we avoid these situations.
Yes, no, absolutely. We've already had a conversation.
Good. So I'll leave that alone now. So Mr. Condell, why do you have a desire, regardless of how it went down? Let's put that to the side. Why do you have a desire for a 35-foot wide driveway?
Well, before this house, we had like a very small driveway, and my kids, and they're like my wife's sisters, like 3 sisters, they live around, and they meet together to play. So they destroyed one of my car when I was in the old house. So now what I did, I wanted to extend, but I did not know if I can do before closing or, I have to do after. I definitely, would do after I close, but I just reach out, before I close the house, and they say, okay, so that, I can save my car and they have enough space to play.
So that clarifies your motivation for wanting the wider driveway. I understand that. So, what else did I want to ask? I'll pass to other board members while I get my thoughts together.
So one of my questions is that, obviously you want the 35-foot wide driveway for, what you just stated. How many cars do you plan on parking in the driveway, on a daily basis?
The daily basis, there are 3.
3?
Yes.
Okay.
And like I say, her sisters, they live around, so they keep visiting every day. And my kids, they go over to their house. And so in the spring or summertime, there are 10 kids, they're riding around, and jumping around.
Right. Okay. Do you plan on utilizing the garage for parking?
I could, but they're all the bicycle and the toy car, truck and everything. The kids, it's basically the kids' garage for now.
Okay.
I can park 1 car in the garage, but I need to keep another one and separate, and the other, the visitors, because I had a bad experience from my old house.
Okay. So I guess another question that I had is, I know that you wanted the additional, so Faber was originally going to do 24 feet, and you had requested obviously the 35. Now, it's a 0 side setback. What width could you live with for the extra space to move around, around the cars and make sure no one's digging it? And obviously you're gonna have 2.
Right, and given the fact that that extra 6 inches has to get cut, so
Right.
cutting has to happen. So what then could be the compromise of, right, 24.7 is allowed, what is could be the compromise in width that gets us away from a 0 setback, given that we're already gonna have to cut off that tail piece? What might be the width that is a compromise that's less than 35?
So honestly, we don't know, what we are allowed. And even we didn't ask them, okay, so you extend 10 feet for me. We didn't ask them, right? So everything, even we didn't know the property line. And, after I talked to my neighbor, that adjacent neighbor, and they are fine with that. And I don't know where the property line goes, I'm still unaware of it.
So one of the questions I have is, the reason why I proposed that question is that, there's going to be snow removal. Where do you plan on putting the snow? So with a 0 side setback, if you had snow, you'd be potentially pushing it onto their driveway, or maybe on the other side, depending on how you snow plow. So where do you plan on putting the snow?
Yeah, for the snow plow, I put a 2 towards my the other side of my property.
To the neighbors.
So then, okay. So
what I'm
towards the
hearing.
neighbors.
Yeah, just the other side.
Towards your neighbor or towards the front of your?
Nobody
And
pushes.
towards in front of my house.
Very
We
few
have
people.
a back, a little, we have more space on the back
They're gonna
side,
push
so
it
we'll
to
put
the
it, it's snow on there.
And, and just to remember, it is a 2-car garage, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I also have a home that's not far from you. I have a 3-car garage. That's a Faber home. And my driveway is 30 feet wide. It's the full width of the 3-car driveway, or 3-car garage. I can very easily fit multiple cars in that 30 feet. 35 feet is very wide. And the offset to the property, and in this case, the over the property, in my eyes, are a substantial issue. The other thing, we still have to get, even if we approve the 3rd application, which I think is the one for the width of the entrance, that also has to be approved by the highway department, which they are very rarely approving unless there's a safety concern. And this is not a safety concern for sure. So I think the front there at minimum will have to be cut down, because I do not think that will be approved.
Well, the front is for the 30 foot.
30 foot.
30 foot at the front. So, Mr. Kendall, do it's safe to say people on the board have concerns with 35 foot wide.
Yes.
Do you think you could make do with 30 feet wide for the entirety of the driveway? Because we are already, as was pointed out by the chairman, because you're over the property line, there's already going to be cutting that has to happen.
And that fixes the offset too.
Right.
That's my thinking.
Yep. I mean, he really needs to go back to the standard dimensions is what we're at.
Well, I'm asking if you'd be okay with 30. I'm not cutting it back to 24.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
So that would be a 5-foot setback.
Right, which would be back.
Yeah,
within
vote
code.
back, yeah, what needs to-
But he would still have to address the 30-foot wide entrance.
Yes,
Correct.
he can take that up with highway.
What's the setback?
I mean, I just kicked that to 10.
Sure.
Yeah, so this covers
my
2 variances, and the other one will be hard to. approve anyway.
So with 30 feet wide, just for the width of the driveway, would that be something that's feasible to fit your needs?
Like I said, I don't know, how far that goes, and
It's 5 feet less.
5 feet less
Yep.
Than what
thinner.
you have?
towards my house. Maybe that's like a too small.
Well, if you said that you're storing 3 cars on a regular basis,
Mhm.
that's 10 feet of width per car.
Yeah, that is.
I
not
think that
small.
would be sufficient.
Yeah, I mean, I want to keep the front space for the kids so they can freely play basketball and ride the bike, and so I don't want to them in between the car. So if I can, or I just request, like if
I
cannot,
understand your
then-
question. I don't think we're leaning towards allowing that to happen. The process obviously was done incorrectly, maybe not intentionally, but incorrectly, has created a few problems. There's going to be cutting going on no matter what. You can't have it over the property line. That's a guarantee that will be cut. And the highway department highly likely will not accept the front of the driveway being 30 feet wide. That is not okay. They will make you remove part of that. So I think there's some major work happening here anyways. By making the driveway 30 feet wide, which is what we're recommending, that fixes, there will be no variance needed for that. There will be no variance needed for 5-foot offset, because that's the requirement also. That fixes that at the same time. You will not be over the property line, and we will have to take out the 6 feet, I think it is, in the entrance to the driveway.
Are we sure it's gonna be at least 5 feet all the way along the property line? Because
Well, we can make that.
the property is not square.
It's pie shaped.
It's pie shaped going towards, So it's something that it may start out at 5 feet, but by the time it gets to the road, it may be less than 5.
In my
I'm not sure
opinion,
exactly.
I'm 1 vote out of 7. My opinion is I don't think we should approve, to be honest, any of them. I'm opposed to every one of them.
Would we want to table this?
I was about to say,
Should
as a
table this.
point of order, Mr. Chairman, we're really having discussion here more than asking questions.
You're valid. Your point is valid. Are there more questions from the members of the board? Are there any other questions from members of the audience?
I have nothing.
Okay,
Let's
as
table
we
it.
mentioned in one of the earlier conversations, we are going to table this, which means you will need to wait. At the end, we're going to have more conversation between the board members to discuss what the results will be for this. So thank you.
Okay,
Please
sounds
stay, do not leave, and,
thank you.
and we'll follow up with that. Very interesting. Thank you for reminding me that.
No
Jessica.
problem.
I appreciate the. Next, we have 2021-099 Kathleen Van Doren at 56 Easton Circle. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Van Doren, 56 Eastern Circle, and it is a vinyl chain link fence, black. And
Thank you.
it
for
kind
the-
of blends right in. You hardly see it. It actually,
Thank you very much for clarifying that. We appreciate it.
Still need a variance for side setback.
Right?
especially if you have a pool or animals or anything. So, and we've been having a ton of deer. They gallop up Hollybrook Road.
Interesting.
We have a
It's
field,
bad.
we have a field behind us that comes up to East Henrietta, and we have every little critter out there you can think of. So,
I wouldn't have anticipated it right there, but it's.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, this is an offshoot.
This is
of
my husband,
our
Tom Van
backyard.
Doren.
Oh, wait, she's right. Please state your name as
Oh,
well.
my name is Tommy Van Doren. It's my lovely wife. Our backyard's actually our front yard.
Yes.
We have a unique house that had a carport originally, and all the ones in that suburban neighborhood, I've been there since 1955, that were on a corner. The back of the house had the other street's address, and like my driveway's on Hollybrook. And our backyard is very small. We've got a pool, and we need room for our dog to run. And we'd rather keep the deer out also. We have 7 or 8 deer at a time in our yard. And I don't know what's going to happen. There's so many deer in that housing tract. It's unbelievable.
Well, then it's actually worth asking.
Please don't tell the DEC they can hunt. But they can come and
I
capture.
won't talk to them, I promise.
But we're just asking
Yeah, we just
to
wanna
move it
show-
out and match the original fence that we already have.
We've had foxes, raccoons, groundhogs, you name it, rabbits, tons of them all over the place. Of
Does-
course, they get in anyway, but come under the fence.
Does the existing 4-foot fence actually stop them? Would this 4?
Deer- Deer, yes, the 4 foot will stop the deer, but you go 3 foot, they'll jump it.
Is it
Because
3 foot now or 4 foot now?
It's
The-
4 foot.
The one that's there.
One, it's code for the town for a pool, 4
Okay,
foot.
I just wanted to be sure that I
Yeah,
was
it's
looking.
4 foot.
Okay.
Yeah. And we just want to take it out 20 feet, extend towards Easton Circle, and they'll still leave 35 feet balance to hit the Easton Circle. So there's a good size setback there.
Okay. Mr. Harrington, do you have any other questions or comments for them?
I don't.
Anyone else on the board have any questions, comments, or concerns?
I forget if it was already asked, but the material it's gonna be made out of?
Yeah,
Is it gonna
it's-
be like a, I didn't see what it looked like before. Is it just like a chain link fence or is it
It's
a?
chain link with black vinyl wrapped on the chain.
Oh, it's
link.
wrapped, no, not the bare
Yes.
metal. Okay,
Yeah, and the pillars, the posts are metal. They're black metal.
like metal.
Those
Okay,
are
so-
black metal and the fence has the vinyl wrapped around it. It should be right on the fence estimate that I submitted. It
Okay.
it says right here, black vinyl chain link.
Okay, I want to make sure it was okay.
So what's the primary purpose of extending the fence? Is it for the deer?
We have a dog and I like to let the dog out, but there's not much room. We don't really have a backyard. Our whole house is considered front yard.
Yep.
So we want to extend it out, but in order to do that, I had to come in for the variance and I just want the deer to stay. I don't want the dog going after deer.
Right, yeah.
Or vice versa.
So currently what you have now, the 4 feet, is that fine for your dog?
Absolutely. Oh, the dog.
Okay, I wasn't sure, so that's why I asked. Okay.
But she'll go. I mean, she sees a deer out there or any type of animal. We have skunks. I don't
Okay.
want to deal with it.
Good point.
No further questions?
Okay.
Beth, you're good too, I assume. She's muted.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns from members of the audience here or on Zoom?
Nothing online.
Thank you. So with that, I would like to close this application. Mr. Harrington?
Mr. Chairman, with regard to application number ZBA 2021-99 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held a public hearing, has considered all relevant information, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, as the variance is only 1 foot difference. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative because the objective is to add usable space within the pool area while keeping wildlife out. This 4-foot fence is required to achieve that goal. 3, the variance is not substantial. 4, the variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions because the variance is only adding 1 foot to the fence site. 5, the difficulty relating to the variance was self-created given the desire to change the size of the fence area. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approves as presented.
I'll second.
Seconded by Christian. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank
All
you.
opposed? Motion carries.
Enjoy.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Have a nice evening. Next application is 2021 100 and 101 Garber Honda Pre-Owned Super Center. Is the applicant online?
Yes, hi, Nick Cooper. I'm the Director of Sales at Garber Honda at 3890 West Henrietta Road.
Welcome, Nick.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit about your changes that are happening here and what you're requesting.
Yeah, so recently we added a building in between our collision center and our sales department for the pre-owned sales. And there's 3 garage doors. One is for alignments and the other 2 are for doll-ups or cleanings. There's no signage above that. So we would like to add a pre-owned super center sign above those 3 garage doors so the customers don't get confused. We've already had customers try to pull in there for our collision center, but that's actually not the collision center. Yeah, so that's it.
Are you going to be requesting another sign for the collision center? I mean, I know
No, there's already one there. Do you have the drawings in front of you?
We do. I'm
Okay.
asking, like, does this solve the problem of people not driving in?
Correct. Yes. Because they're not going to drive into a sign that says pre-owned super center for collision.
I'll bet you a quarter they do.
I think, all right, maybe, all right, I'll bet you 10 cents.
I think allowed.
No, I don't think I'm allowed to bet, actually. I'm sorry.
All right, yes, okay.
Yeah, so this is your solution to that. This is not part of the name of the company. It's just an identifier of what that part of the building's for.
Yes, sir.
Nick, can you, so when a customer comes to you and say they want, detailing, what kind of is like the process of that? Are they supposed to park and then meet, one of your salesmen and then?
Yeah, we have a receptionist. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. Like pull up their car to this area, or are they the intention for them to just pull up to the bay doors?
Right now, they're coming into our sales end, talking to the receptionist, and we're bringing them over there. They need to make an appointment if they want to get their car dialed, and typically they're pulling up to the front of the sales end right now. We're working on putting somebody in that pre-owned super center, or excuse me, underneath those garage doors that can greet people as well.
Okay, so so you're looking to kind of move what your process is right now and try to direct people to just the super pre-owned
Correct.
area. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Is there any way that you can do this smaller? We always ask.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I can look into that.
Well, I mean, we're ideally looking for an answer today.
Then I would say no.
Right.
What size is the lettering or you're looking at right now? You're looking at 2'6". I think it's.
Yeah.
The highest.
That's what looks like 2'6", or 1'9"1/4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lowercase.
I think the lowercase, yeah, 1'9".
Okay, so 2.5 feet high. And part of this, you're looking, there's two variances. One of them is to have a third wall sign. And another one is to have more square footage of that sign than is normally allowed. And it's actually substantial. They're allowed normally 250 square feet, but they're asking for 335. Okay.
So, Nick, I know you previously said no, you weren't sure about the sizes, but could you do like 2'3"?
Does it help enough to make a difference?
I know.
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, we've gone round and round with this company. I think this would be perfect.
Are there any other questions from board members?
No.
Are there questions, comments, or concerns from members of the audience?
Nothing online.
Okay. Is this something that we feel we should table, or are we comfortable with this? No. We good or- Okay, so with that, we can close this application. And give me just a moment, because I'm the one doing this. Okay. So with regards to application ZBA 2021-100 and 101 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held a public hearing, has considered all relevant information, and has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to the nearby properties. This request is in line with the rest of the building and character of the neighborhood, which is almost exclusively car dealerships. The variances cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative. This variance does not have a viable other solution, and again, it is in character with the building in the neighborhood. The variance request is substantial. However, it fits the situation and need appropriately. The variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions. The sign is not at all expected to have any physical or environmental conditions or concerns. The difficulty relating to the variances was self-created, and it's due to the growth of the customer and change in the building use. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approve the variances as presented.
Second.
Seconded by John Miglerini. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Opposed.
Mr. Redlow is opposed. The motion carries. You can follow through with the application process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You as well.
You too. Good night.
Okay. Now we have, again, last one, I guess, 2021-102 Salvatore's, Nicholas Pearl.
Yes, sir. How are you tonight?
Good, welcome.
Thank you.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Nick Pearl, 352 Jefferson Road, Salvatore's Pizzeria.
Thank you. Done.
So Nick, what you want to do is you want to replace the existing OTB sign that's there with the regular Salvatore sign and then add a reader board underneath it?
That's correct.
And what are you planning on doing on the reader board?
Just trying to promote what I'm doing. I'm a small guy in a big world on Jefferson Road. So I'm, I really want to push, breakfast pizza at 9 a.m. If we have live music on Friday, if we're going to do a UFC fight, pizza specials, just static images. There's nothing scrolling, nothing moving. That's it. American flag on Veterans Day.
Amen.
When you say USC fight, do you mean broadcasting it or having one there?
I'm definitely not having one in there. Broadcasting it, pay-per-view.
Thank you.
You can do it on the roof.
It is an option though, Nick.
No, it's definitely not.
So how often do you plan on, for the reader board, how often do you plan on changing the signage? like the words and what you're promoting.
I feel like we lost you, Nick. Are you muted?
Oh, he is muted.
The host asked me to unmute. There we go. I'm back. Sorry. I forgot what the code is. It's not necessary that it needs to transfer on a frequent basis. It's more just a matter of getting my message across.
Okay, yeah, because code is 1 per hour.
Yeah, I would definitely be able to abide by that. I don't think I have enough time in my schedule to change it faster than that.
Okay. Oh, because you have to manually change it.
There's probably automation available.
Yeah, I think you have to program it. I haven't gone too far down the realm of it because I didn't want to put a lot of effort into it until I've got approved. I think it would be a huge asset. Being a Salvatore's Pizzeria is one thing, but being a Salvatore's Saloon, like what I do in Scottsville, is a whole another thing. So it adds a whole different realm of what I do in my business, being the saloon. So the saloon adds that bar restaurant feel. You know, we're a family friendly pizzeria first, but we are also a bar restaurant. So it's hard to encompass to the general public how much we do with just a Salvatore sign out front. You know, we're known for our famous full menu delivery, but we're not necessarily known as a franchise for having Tap It Tuesday with a local brewery. We're not necessarily known for having live music on Friday. We're not necessarily known for, you know, having outdoor family movie night. And I think that the reader board would really help my company get this location really off the ground and something different.
Question I have is, for the sign as it is on the photo you provided, how high off the ground will the reader board sign be from the ground? I can't quite gauge if the code says it's supposed to be 9 feet off the ground?
Correct.
Is it going to be 9 feet between the bottom of the reader board and the bottom of the pole?
Ooh, I wish I was on site. I could take a tape measure to it. But I feel that the current, I would feel that the current sign is like almost 6 by 8. And I know that I had a heck of a time getting a tape measure up there. I would imagine that sign is at least 10 feet, if not 12 off the ground. And this board is only 3 feet tall. So if it's 12 foot off the ground, that puts me over the 9. To be honest with you, sir, I'm sorry. I don't have a live answer to that. I wish I did. I wish I knew that I didn't even know that there was a 9 foot vertical requirement that never got disclosed to me. The best I can offer you is an apology for not knowing that ahead of the time, or I would have had that answer for you.
That's okay. I just want to make sure that was also, I mean, I have no problem with the sign as it is. I just didn't know how high off the ground it was going to be for, and if it's not going to be 9 feet, you need another variance to allow for that.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, I'm sorry. That took me by surprise. I wish I had an answer for you. If I would have known that 9 feet was an issue, I would have an answer. So I guess my answer is going to be, yes, it's going to be 9 feet, or I'll be back for another variance. If that's the code, that the code is the code.
Nick, for clarity, you're using the existing sign hardware, the OTB hardware, I'm going to call it, but you're dropping below that. You're putting the reader below that, correct?
Exactly, sir. We're going to mount right to the pole that supports that existing sign.
Okay, yeah, because I don't know if the reader board when it's put up, the clearance has to be from the ground to the bottom of the reader board sign, is my understanding. So that needs to be the 9 feet once everything's in place. If it's less than a variance.
I'm sorry again. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I completely understand where you're coming from. I understand the code now. I understand the code. If I would have known that there was a 9 foot minimum vertical, I would have had that answer for you tonight. My short answer is that if you approve the reader board, it will be 9 feet. If not, I will be back for a variance.
I understand, and I appreciate that. I just want to well, so I just appreciate the fact that you didn't know, but not aware of it. So that's fine. So it will be 9 feet if it needs to be for whatever it's going to make it. Okay.
He needs another one.
So Mr. Pearl, this is Tim Harrington. In your application, you mentioned you do not believe that this message board will change the character of the neighborhood, but Can I ask, in your experience neighboring your facility, are there other companies that have more than one sign on a single pole sign for one company?
Oh, McGregor's. And then Old Country Buffet, or whatever the buffet is in the plaza that was closed for a while. Country, I'm not sure what it is, but in the Jefferson Plaza, there's the buffet right there. They have a standard pole sign, and they have a message board underneath. And then McGregor's has the same thing.
It's Golden
They
Corral.
border me on east and west. Golden Corral.
I think so. So it's in character with the neighborhood, basically.
No further questions.
Yeah. Any other questions from board members? Members of the audience? I just want to say on the record, Nick, that my wife recommends that you still put in a Donuts Delight in there as well. It would go good with the saloon, she feels. So
I second
the
Mrs.
two
Peckham's
second-
idea
the
for
two-
that.
I think
I
that's-
don't like it. I would rather stay up late than get up early. Sorry, guys.
So with that, I close this application.
Should I put a comment in there? Not to-
No, because I think it's going to be a thing that we come up anyways.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, if I can't meet the 9 feet, I'm gonna have to come back.
Yes.
Right, okay. Mr. Chairman, with regards to application ZBA 2021-102 for an area variance, I move to approve. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held public hearings, has considered all relevant information, and has considered the potential benefits to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such surcharge. Now therefore be such variance, excuse me. Now therefore be resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of facts. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties. There's already a sign there for OTB, and he's just putting up his sign to replace that for his advertising. The variance cannot be achieved by another feasible alternative. There's already an OTB sign there again. He's just adding the reader board. The variance requested is not substantial. The variance will not have a negative effect on the physical or environmental conditions, as there are others on Jefferson Road. The difficulty related to the variance was self-created, and be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approves the variance as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Redlow. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Mr. Harrington opposes. The motion carries. Good luck, Nick.
Thank you very much. Now I just have to make sure I can afford it.
Talk to you later.
Thank you.
So with that, I'd like to close the open portion of the meeting. And do I have to say the time?
It's 8:23.
It's 8:23. So
Mr. Chairman, can we do a 5-minute break?
yes, we will take a 5-minute break, probably appropriate. I noticed there's 3 other people in the audience that haven't said anything. May I ask what's going on? Wonderful.
Approved.
Approved.
What school do you
What
guys
school?
represent?
Very nice. And have you gone to other meetings, or is it just this one? Are you planning to go to other meetings? Do you have any other questions for us while we're in this intermission or anything? We can always answer things or talk to you afterwards if you desire. Sure. Well, I'm glad you're observing. Something I've asked my kids to pay attention to, and they're probably a little bit older than you guys. Do anything you can to give back to the community and do some level of community service, whatever it is. It's always something that's important in my eyes. So 2 cents worth of advice. It's rewarding to do it, even though sometimes it's not always the most pleasant when we have things that are not easy. It's hard sometimes, but you it does have a reward. So I wish you luck on it. And if your teacher gives you a bad grade, have him call Christian. He'll talk to him, okay? We'll make sure that he gives you a thumbs up. No
What you mean, Jesse?
And Jesse's a teacher, so we'll, a professor, so we can.
Oh, you guys are here for, is it a US history? Yeah. That's a good, I should give that to my house, to actually go with government.
Really should. That's actually a good idea.
That could work for my college orientation students, learn to be citizens.
No, but schools have done this before, so they've definitely come in before.
Probably. It is, yeah.
It's a good night for it. We got some entertainment going on.
Well, it's definitely, well, it's, you know, it's not always easy.
Which is good. Thank you for the break.
Absolutely. You should answer.
Well, I was trying to wait till now.
I'm still waiting for John.
Yeah. Always do that if you need it. I get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, bro, you guys are gonna get sick of my voice real quick on this.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Did you say gonna? That's funny.
I have a sign for you, Bob, but it's not appropriate while we're on the record.
Jesse, we will always think of you saying perpetuity and perpetuity after you're gone.
I know that is my catchphrase. I understand.
It's
There's
valid.
worse things to be known for.
Yes.
You can put that in your report that we say in perpetuity a lot. All right, you do. Even Kevin's throwing shade now. Here we go.
I had to look it up.
Yeah, I was even thinking about bringing a cake next month for my last meeting.
Forget it.
Oh, come on.
We would be okay with that.
Well,
though.
I can't eat it.
Or brownies or something.
How about, we could bring Salvatore's.
So, yeah. All right, so
Crumble
we're,
cookie.
no. So we're all back. Beth, are you still with us?
Never left.
Okay, just double checking. I can't see you, so I'm being safe.
Yeah, sorry, broken camera.
So board, we have four actually, resolutions to discuss.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Yes, they bring back in session as of, say, 8:28.
Oh, thank you. 8:28, we're going to be back in session talking about these tabled applications. So the first one I'd like to talk about is Gatehouse Trail. This one probably has more opposition than I've seen out of almost any of them. I remember one more along, not far from your house that had more. But you know, this definitely is one that we should consider. You know, there's very valid reasons that they're asking for this. It makes sense to me why they're asking for it. You know, both for the family component and the, you know, just the general needs. I understand it. What are the thoughts? I mean, what are we feeling about this?
So I understand his hardship.
Yep.
But I know Jesse actually made a valid point. Is there right now they have one problem, but in the future they're gonna have another problem.
Yeah, I think the four cars.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jeez.
It was someone,
Tim?
yeah.
Just crack everything to me. It's okay.
So I,
The part you're asking, I'm asking for clarity. The part you're talking about specifically, I think it's the car.
it's a
count,
car, yeah, the car counts.
And the testimony was there was four.
There's 4 on a daily basis as of now.
But it'll probably be 5 or 6, very possibly,
Yeah, possibly 5 or 6
for
later
some
down the
period
road.
of time.
You know, and I don't think all feasible alternatives have been really considered. That's obviously my opinion. So I'm against it. I get the hardship. I get it.
I want to come to some solution with it,
Right.
but I don't know that this one's the solution that I'm comfortable with. So for my vote, I'm
Yes.
against it.
You know, when you talk about the cars, you can't force him to put his cars in the garage, but
Right.
the cars aren't in the garage right now. So if he did put his cars in the garage, it would take up no more space than it's taking up right now.
That's right.
Right.
That's true.
But during his testimony, he mentioned that they have recreational vehicles that are daily drivers that are currently in.
Right.
And they're kind of basically like moving it down. So they.
I don't know how you put those downstairs. I guess I do with Tim, but.
Wonder where they would go.
It doesn't really work.
We said you could move his woodworking equipment downstairs
Oh,
once.
Which will make more room for the cars.
Yeah, the vehicles would stay in the garage, whatever garage is there, but it's the equipment, the tools that he's hoping to move downstairs once the extension is built, so they don't.
is the mother and mother-in-law in the house right now?
No, only the one mother, his mother, and the mother-in-law are looking to.
Okay, well, Christian, I didn't pick up on that. So did he say him and his wife would be moving up into one of the spaces and the mother? mother-in-law would-
Right now, him and his wife are living, or they're staying down.
That was the
there.
implication.
I don't know if the basement's finished. or
I
not.
thought it was one for the mother, and one for the mother-in-law, but now I think you're right. One for them and one for the other two.
Right, they probably
Two
want to,
bedroom.
they probably want to have a 2-bedroom and like also an entryway. So
The
that's, gonna-
bathroom.
and, maybe, I don't know. but it
Potentially,
depends.
yeah.
Just a laundry.
But the base, I think the whole idea is that, they can move back upstairs and then,
Yeah,
and then put the stuff that's in the garage right now, except for the vehicles in the basement, is what I'm understanding.
right.
So they're moving things around, which I can see, and it sounds like a great idea, but it's also,
They may be cubed out, meaning this could be max capacity anyways.
could be, 1,000 square foot home is rather small. I mean, like.
Yeah.
For even just
For
for
6 people,
for 6 people, it's very small, really.
So I,
but he's gonna be put on 500.
Yeah, he's gonna be at 540, I think.
So give or take 1,500 square feet. It's tight, but it's doable.
But, you know, in the aspect of setback of what they're requesting, mostly, it does go against the character of the neighborhood.
I 100% agree with that statement, Heather.
I 100% agree. Even if there's some example, I didn't see it. I didn't drive around the bend to see another
Oh,
one
I did, and I did not see anything similar to what. they're
was being requested.
But also the comments from neighbors are indicative of the feel of the neighborhood too, that it's in opposition to that.
Mhm.
well, I have a slightly different perspective on this one for whatever it's worth. So, I mean, this is clearly, from what I can tell as an applicant, this is a family oriented person. So regardless of what we approve here, he's gonna end up moving in the mother and the mother. Well, the mother's already there, but the mother-in-law in addition. So a 995 square foot home is small. We've acknowledged that. I don't really see an issue here. I think 30 feet is far enough away from the road. I agree that it's out of character of the neighborhood. Heather's 100% right about that. However, I don't see the feasible alternative. I understand why we asked about it and I wanted to hear about it, but I think his reasons for not going into the backyard and et cetera make good sense, given the landscape. I'm not concerned about the cars. I thought his answer was adequate because he'll be able to put 1 or 2 of the vehicles into the garage once he clears it out. He can fit 4 cars in the driveway without it going into the street, and he can legally street park if he needs to. So I think this should be approved for the reasons giving it. I don't see feasible alternatives. I don't see an effect on physical or environmental conditions.
There were contrary to that, the comment that I heard was there's a cost difference for alternatives, but there are alternatives. And
Well-
not all alternatives are desired. That's also a given.
Well, feasible, right? I mean,
Well, feasible to me,
cost plays a role in feasibility.
it does play a role in feasibility, but if I recall, it was 140 a square foot up front, give or
For
take,
right now, for the, yeah.
and
and-
160
Yep.
up back, if I understood that correctly.
I did understand that, yep.
And
That adds up quick.
that's definitely a cost difference. I don't debate that. I
Yeah.
mean, that's
Yeah.
substantial. But I don't think that means it's, in my eyes, I don't think that's unfeasible. That's not double, that's not triple.
Okay.
But it's a factor that we have
Right.
to weigh individual, each of us have to
It's a,
decide.
it's a subjective factor.
That's a
What,
factor
to
that we-
me, I would deem that not feasible, but I can respect where you're coming from in
Yeah.
that you could call that feasible.
And vice versa, but it's a cost benefit analysis. If the other options are moving, which is not something that's desired. I agree. And I do too. It's a
Yeah, we
beautiful
have a
neighborhood.
happy Henrietta resident who wants to expand their home
Yes.
to cater for elderly parents. To me, this is an easy approve, but I respect where you
Yeah.
all are different.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
Also, they talked about maybe building upwards too, because I understand their mother-in-law's they can't go up and down the stairs, but I don't, they could perhaps, if that's something that.
Right.
Yeah, but-
that they can do. Or some living in the basement.
I know,
upstairs.
Well,
yeah.
that's true.
So there- I mean, I know that.
The testimony though stated that they're trying to be all on the same floor, and I understand. I'm not opposed to that either. I think that's a great idea.
I think it's good.
I don't know what the cost is either, so I don't know what.
Going, you're referring to going up?
It's a
That's
lot.
not feasible when you're caretaking for elder folks. I've done it. You can't.
If you're on the top floor and they're on the.
The stairs present too much of an obstacle. I caretook for a
Right, but the
person for
home,
4 years.
but the homeowners could be on the
On the
second
second
floor.
floor.
It creates a big time difference in getting to someone in the case of an emergency. It's not feasible from a caretaking standpoint.
It is true. Yeah, building up is always more costly.
It's more
But
costly.
valid, again,
It might be out of our purview, but just if we're discussing, it, it's not valid from a caretaking standpoint.
I appreciate your insight on that too.
Yeah, there's a lot of different options. It's not like this is the only option they have, and I know it's probably the one that is most cost effective, but I mean, they could like I said, convert half the garage, maybe add on the other side of the house. So they can have it two, they're expanding the house, but not in that one spot. They're just kind of, they just have a one-car garage and then have the other half as living space and then add another spot on the other side. Maybe that, I don't know if that may or may not be desirable.
I still
It's
think
just-
about,
I don't
Well,
know.
if their purpose is to be near each other, that, I don't know if that is feasible. Their
I know.
purpose is to be caretaking.
Oh, I know.
and the other component though that we had discussed was that patio or the deck or whatever the right word is for the back.
The porch.
The porch.
Security.
But that's a
Maybe do
spot.
L on there, like-
That's a spot, and distance wise, that's not farther. Might be different though, and it's more expensive.
Instead of this, or it could just be this and this. We could
So-
build here. I mean, I don't
So,
know.
so with all these thoughts, Jesse, I understood what you said, and I feel you said yes, you're leaning towards.
I will approve it. Yep.
Tim, what is your feeling as we're saying this right now?
I honestly, I still can't decide. The structure in the back was described as needing work. I think that's a potential place for an addition.
I agree.
One other thought that I had, looking at that drawing is, if we were to say, okay, to expand on the side of the porch, the applicant did make comment, there's a lot of trees down there, so we're looking at environmental destruction in that option.
You may be right, but I feel he said that for a question about going towards the property, the other side.
On the west,
Maybe I
on the
missed
west. Yeah, that was going west.
There's
side.
Okay,
trees there.
disregard.
But we should clarify, no matter what, we should clarify that. Heather?
It's after hearing his testimony and after, our discussion, I'm still leaning towards no. I think there are other feasible alternatives that could be explored. It might not be most desirable, but I think it's gonna change the character of my neighborhood.
John?
I'm along the same lines as Jesse. To approve it.
Christian?
At this point, I'm not in favor of it. The other question I have a question about as I have is, what will it look like when it's done? Because we don't have any idea as to what it'll look like as an addition to the home. We don't know. He's asking for a 27-foot by 25-foot space essentially, but we don't know how that's going to be built in. I mean, presumably it will match up to the house and look like it's always been there.
And if
You know,
it has
that-
to be dug down and leveled down to affect the grade of the garage, then there's gonna be steps going from the garage into the primary house too.
Right. It's gonna be, because with the grading and
Right.
everything, so it's something that there's, I mean, I would like to see more like what it's gonna look like when it's done, but I'm still really, I think it would change the character of the neighborhood. I really think that it's something that there are other alternatives that need to be explored as far as building in the back. I know the backyard is not that large and there's also a pool there, but I still think that there's opportunity to build backwards or on the other side of the house. What side is it?
That'll be the west. I
The,
think.
the, the side, I mean, I know there's trees there, so I don't know how.
Well, he did mention, just so you're aware, he did mention that there was, he'd have to change the layout of the house.
Oh, it's right
So-
there.
Internal structure.
Yeah, that
wasn't
house is, that's probably the side where the,
Bedrooms or something.
I don't know what the
Yeah,
internal
probably.
side, what it looks like inside, but it would probably require a lot more to, yeah, to go on that side. But building in the back area where that porch is right now, maybe expanding it a little bit, is, I think, also feasible.
But it's maybe more expensive, but it is a possibility.
Yeah, but it's something that sometime, yeah.
What was the because the garage is gonna be 675 square foot. So what's the?
You're taking away almost exactly the same amount because the drawing says I'm rounding an inch, 25 feet wide at the driveway, and it's 25 feet that he's looking to expand, but 27 feet wide. Well, that doesn't fit. So it's literally, they're taking the width of the house, the depth of the house, and moving it forward. I know it's off by inches from what I'm saying, but that's the effective.
Yeah.
So that the whole garage can become usable, livable space.
Right. Yeah, the whole garage.
Right.
The replicating the garage.
Put the livable space in the back.
That's what we're
I mean,
saying.
put the livable space right there.
That's what we're saying, but there's a pool. So, Christian, with all of that said, what are you leaning towards?
I'm leaning towards no.
Okay. And Beth?
Yeah, I'm not in favor of this. I think the change of the character is greater because this will certainly sit out further than the rest of the houses in that entire neighborhood. Two, the neighborhood would have to put up with the construction of same, and that's a change to the character of the neighborhood for the time that it takes. The parking in the street is limited to seasonally because there's no overnight parking from November to April, I think. Anyways, but I don't know of anybody who lives on a residential street that wants people always parked in the road and encounter that. There are some viable alternatives that were suggested, and I don't know, other than $40 more per square foot, that really has been pursued. Not that that's part of this, but when you're looking at the grand scheme of something, when you have a large addition such as almost half the size of the square foot of the house adding on to a house, you have to take into consideration how that impacts everything altogether. So I'm not in favor with this.
Okay. In that case, and I am not either. So in that case, this is a denial likely. So Heather, I'll have you write that up.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
You may.
Just a comment. If they were to take the back wall of the garage and go out half the distance and then take half of the garage for the addition portion, living space, and come out forward half that distance and create, go into the existing front half of the garage as a garage space.
So you're saying
You could
like
reduce the requested variance.
give or take 12 feet?
Whatever would work. I mean, yes, it'll be a little more expensive. It'll probably be somewhere in that $150 to $160 a square foot because you're adding basically the difference is you're doing at least a crawl space.
Yeah.
And that's more expensive than just a trench footer for a garage.
Yeah.
But then again, digging it down, that's extra cost for excavation. So, it's a give and take on that.
So, I mean,
Well, either way, as requested though, we're not, yeah, we're. I don't
Right,
think-
if you could talk to the
Sure.
applicant and see if that's viable, you could.
So
you
that's
know,
yeah, that's actually something, I mean, I would be more okay with a lesser setback.
So give or take 12 foot off the front of the house now, give or take,
Give or take.
versus 25.
Yeah.
It's something that we can discuss. You're welcome to, well, we should probably wait. We'll open it back up for more testimony.
Well, how does everybody else feel?
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
How would you feel, Christian, if we made that adjustment?
What are you saying?
He's saying make it half the distance forward, 12, give or take 12 feet. Allowing him to build back and take half the distance, the depth of the garage.
So, we're looking basically at where the porch is located right now,
Sort of pulling it across,
kind of pulling it across, though that might,
fix his backyard needs.
yeah, but that also is gonna cause a problem because the pool that's there's probably a minimum distance that needs to be between the pool and the house. So if there's anything
Well,
built behind.
looking at it, Christian, when you're looking at that porch addition that I see on screen right now,
Yeah,
that's probably 10 or 12 feet.
it's about 12, I think, yeah, but I was trying to measure it.
So that's probably 10 or 12 feet, give or take. So it's probably similar, just spreading that across the back is what he's saying.
So basically,
You know,
it'll-
using that as living space by removing it and putting it in,
yeah, so that to the house then would look kind of like, no, that's really bad.
would have a bulbous, yeah.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about, basically, like-
Yeah,
like a T almost.
Like a T,
yeah, like a T basically.
roughly, yeah.
So was that
How do you
something-
feel about that?
Yeah, how do you feel about that?
I feel better about it as far as the overall setback, but again, that's something that,
I mean, they'd have to do it, but
right, that the thing is that we would, approving that, they're only getting,
12 feet.
they would be, they would have to make the decision to definitely build in the back too, if they want to get the same square footage.
Well, obviously, it's something we could propose.
We could propose
they're
it.
okay with it.
But it's something that, I mean, but as the variance stands right now, it would be denied, but that's an option we can suggest. It's ultimately what they want to do is.
Yeah, because the house is at 55.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Tim, would that change your opinion? Yes. Heather, would that change your opinion?
Yes.
Beth, would that change your opinion?
No, I'm still against this.
Yeah, me as well. But that would mean that it would pass. So let's, when we bring this back up, we'll offer that as an option. We can approve that if that's acceptable. If that is not acceptable, we'll still deny.
So procedurally, how would that work? You approve it with a condition or you deny it and ask them to come back with a new application?
We,
Plans anyway, no? Before we
I mean, well, that
Well,
would have
that's
to
the plan.
go before they get approved. We just give them,
We would change the application, I thought, right? You would change the
we would
application.
just change.
They can amend their ask.
You're amending
They
it
can
from
amend.
30-foot front setback to 38.
Whatever it
Yeah,
is.
they can amend.
Yeah.
It'll be, we're looking for 40.
Just get a reduced amount.
So basically, so, I mean, so you're a no still, so is Beth.
Yeah, but we have plenty of yes if they accept that.
The only
Because
thing that,
I'm still.
You're on the fence,
I'm on the fence, honestly, because I mean.
but even if you're on the fence, we have enough to accept it.
Well, okay, that's something too, is
So it
that I
makes it
just,
easier.
I didn't know if everyone else was a yes. I know Jesse is and.
Jesse
John.
and John are, Heather said yes, Tim said yes, so that's 4 out of 7, so that's it. So
All right.
you and I,
Not a deciding factor. It's,
at this moment, you are not unless someone changes.
the only other consideration is the elevation. If they would have to keep the garage floor at the height that it is now to make
Right.
it work. So it would increase the steepness of the driveway. I did not drive by, so I don't know exactly how
pretty
steep it is, but if it would.
It's like this.
It'll increase it.
But you go over to Langston Point, the driveway is like this.
Yeah, but we're also talking about a set of, part of the reason for this is there's 2 women that are elderly that need help and support. And I make an assumption that a driveway that is steep in the summer, maybe it's okay, but in the winter,
Winter, no.
there's no way that's okay. I don't think, if it looks like my head says it would.
Yeah, I also thought about that too.
Yeah. So this is a dilemma. Again, maybe we just open the testimony again in a minute,
Yeah.
in a couple
Well-
minutes.
I mean, they have to get in and out of the garage. I mean,
They have to get it out.
my mother-in-law does not walk in the driveway,
Well,
period.
Doesn't happen.
It's in and out of, even if I drive, I have to drive her into the garage.
That's typical for caretaking. Yep.
So none of this works.
well, it would, it
Even the
would.
driveway, I'm sorry, even the original request would put a garage, I'm gonna say 3 foot down.
Lower than the foundation of the house, yeah, lower than the first floor of the house.
So there's stairs.
Oh, the first option, yeah.
I mean, they'll have-
There's no option that works with it on the front in my head.
The
If they
only,
do stairs, they could do it.
That's fair.
that's what I was just thinking.
And they don't need a variance for that, so they can do that.
Or if they pull in the garage, then.
Yeah.
No, if they elevate it down, they won't be able to, how will they get into the house without having a ramp into
It
the
will have to
house?
be done,
or-
the garage is gonna be lower than the house.
Right.
What, 3 feet?
Well,
Sure, so
yeah.
2 steps.
So that's 2 steps.
2 steps isn't as bad for people who are ill. But
I'm,
They can
I'm
figure
I'm
that
okay
out.
with that.
Yeah.
It's just but it there will be steps. If they do it on the front, but if they do it on the back, there won't be. Or likely won't be unless they raise it.
Right. And even, I know, even if, what we're proposing, they could still drive up and get
There'll still
out.
be steps.
Not, if not,
You go in the
no.
house.
if they're going, if we do like the half of what we were just talking about,
Otherwise, they're gonna have a
Then-
massive ramp there. going into the garage.
they would have a massive ramp, but it would still, the garage level would all be one floor.
With the
I'll be-
compromised half extension.
Yeah. Okay. So what does that mean? Yes, if they do that?
Yes.
Yes, if they take that. Okay, so we don't need to,
You don't need me.
now we got,
I'm really thinking, no, if it's for myself. so-
I'm thinking no, sir. 96, 97, 98.
So here's what I'm thinking. I just want to throw this out to the board and see where you guys land. So with 96, I'm thinking approve it because I'd rather leave that up to the highway superintendent to deny or approve. Because I don't have a personal beef with it. That's up to Tim Lessing to decide what to do with it. So I kind of want to pass the buck to him on that. 97, which is the 35-foot wide driveway, I would propose to Mr. Condell that goes down to 30. I would deny it at 35. I'm okay with it at 30. And then for 98, I want to deny that because I don't agree with the 0-foot side setback. That's where I sit. I'm open to hearing
So
everybody else.
I'm repeating it just for clarity.
Yep.
You're accepting the wide entrance.
Yes.
And potentially passing the buck, which likely won't get passed, but it could.
Right.
And you're saying 30-foot wide for the driveway and 5-foot offset. or
Correct.
setback.
That's what I'm saying.
I would agree with Jesse on that. All
I'm-
points.
All points Jesse says I'm agreeing with. The 0, I'm strongly against, especially during the testimony you mentioned pushing
Yep.
the snow, so nope.
That's 3.
One question I have about the
It's
fact,
done.
Bingo.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, one thing I should ask, whether we'll let them talk again, but, or the applicant speak to us, is that at the end of the driveway, how much space, I mean, if we cut it back to 30 feet, how much space would there then be between that and the property line? Because the fact that it's pie shaped, it's not a square lot. Even if it's 5 feet at the beginning, at the top of the driveway, it won't be 5 feet at the bottom,
We'll
which
still
means they
need,
will still need a
Yes.
variance.
still need a side
So-
setback variance.
If they, so I want to make sure that,
Okay, so
this is,
your point is valid. So your comment, I'm saying this for clarity. Your comment is that you don't think mathematically the 30-foot wide at the entrance is going to give them the 5-foot offset. And therefore, if we say we are not giving a 0-foot offset, we only have 5-foot offset. If the driveway entrance is in that space, they also have to trim that.
well, I mean, no, I'm just saying that
Or
if it's less than 5 feet, but it's more than, I mean, I'm not good with I don't like the 0 lot line thing for the driveway especially. The fact is that, I mean, it looks like, looking at the map here, from the corner of the garage to the property line is 12.1, 12 foot 1 inch, whatever.
But it's not
So
square.
if it's, bringing it back 5 would be about, see, the thing is, if they bring it back 5 feet here, it's not gonna be 5 feet there.
You're right.
Because it's gonna cut in.
Well, maybe this request makes it, if that's 0, if you bring it 5 from there,
It needs to be 5 foot from the front right corner of the property line.
so that
5
goes
foot over.
in. If that's 30 right now, yeah, that'd have to be 5 feet.
It'd be 5 feet at the end of the driveway, which means it'll be more. I mean, if you want to have it a straight, I mean, you could, I guess
It'd be straight.
technically the applicant could have a driveway that's not square.
put
So I mean,
6.
they could have 5 feet consistent.
Mine's not square.
along- Yeah, it'd be 5 feet consistent along the property line, that there be a 5-foot gap paralleling the property line of 5 feet, then that's fine. I mean, the driveway could
That can
be,
be a condition, yeah.
Okay, so condition for the front space,
Okay,
that
what,
it still can't be 5 feet. Right, the 5-foot offset still has to be in place.
Less than 5 feet.
Yeah.
so a 5-foot setback. Is that what?
I'm sorry, setback.
that's the setback, yeah.
So conditioned on a 5-foot setback from property line?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm fine with that,
I still think the end result is going to be Tim's going to say no.
Right.
And they're going to have to cut it to that distance.
but I'd rather punt it to him personally.
Yeah,
So you're gonna, is everybody on the board, again, we will ask a few questions, but is everybody on the board at face value right now comfortable with the request that Jesse has and with the
Yes.
qualifier?
and yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Beth, are you okay with that?
I'm in favor of ripping it out and putting it to code. The fact that it was put in very questionable decision-making does not sit very well.
I agree 100%.
So that
And
means,
now we're being asked to give relief to poor decision-making,
well, yeah, I,
you know?
and they're already cutting.
Well, and the
Right, I understand they're already cutting, but at the same point, you're looking at something where this driveway is going to live on for the perpetuity of the life of this house. So it goes back to, I'd rather ask forgiveness than permission. Well, how many more of these are we going to see over the course of X number of years if the precedent is set?
I think we have one next month.
But the thing is,
Next door.
this wasn't Faber that did this either. So-
I didn't say it was favor. I just said
Yep. Nope.
that it's questionable decision-making that we're approving a variance of.
You're correct. So Jesse, I hear her recommendation as saying no to all three.
Is that accurate, Beth? Is that what you're saying?
That's how I'm voting, is no to all three regardless.
Okay.
I appreciate what she's saying, but I actually believe we'll leave it 30-foot width.
I do agree though, Beth. I don't like the process. I'm with you 100% on that. I feel like I made that pretty clear to Faber on the record that I'm not happy with how this went down.
And I thought that was an excellent use of
Yeah,
words.
yeah, and
What, did they butt up against each other? No.
and it's,
Oh, okay.
to me, it seems like the need for the 30-foot wide is more of,
Self-created.
yeah, so self-created, thank you.
The whole thing is self-created.
So Jesse, I think to clarify one thing that I said a moment ago, the application for the 35-foot wide driveway, which if I hear it excluding Beth, I think we're accepting 30 feet. That means we're approving with a
condition.
Qualifier condition. But
Condition
the
on
other ones
30
are
feet.
denial.
The other ones are denials is my feeling. Yes.
So that's how I would write that up, Jesse.
Okay.
And yes,
So
can have
you
time,
mean-
but I'd like to bring them back up.
No, go ahead. Because you got to do, because you have to do this, Mr. Sante first. That gives me time.
Denials for the two.
The offset
Yep.
is a denial, and the driveway entrance is a denial.
Well, the driveway
Wait,
entrance,
Approved.
Yeah,
it's approval with the condition.
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
So 2 of them
condition,
are approval with condition.
Yes, two are
Yeah.
approvals with conditions.
Because if the highway department puts a mix on it, then I mean.
Then it's disapproved. It's declined anyway.
Right, but it's, yeah.
Disapproved.
Right, but they would just have to change the shape of the entrance to comply with the transportation department.
Which is 24 feet, which is exactly what we're asking for, which is exactly what we think they should do.
So they go 24 feet. and then
I think we're just playing a game by approving it.
I don't think it's a game. It's our jurisdiction and then their jurisdiction.
Okay. So with that, I would like to reopen the meeting. It's 9 o'clock, it's 3 minutes to 9. I would like to start with Mr. Sante. I hope I said it right. 31 Gatehouse Trail. If you would please come back up to the podium. I know being in the audience, you're able to hear exactly what we were talking about and our lament here in dealing with this. Trying to weigh out your needs, which are very valid, and we in a heartfelt way understand and want to help with you on this. But it does create some difficulties that we weigh out all components that are in front of us, including testimony from the neighbors and general understanding of how we operate in the district, or in the town, I should say. So it does put us in a little bit of a spot where we're at odds with your desires. And so, listening to what we said, is there any other testimony that you can bring to us that would help us change our mind? Because I believe you heard most of what we were saying, and we're trying to be very open and, come to
Certainly.
some matching conclusion that'll work with you. Is there anything that you think we can do that would work for all of us?
Well, I think, first of all, I understand, everyone's objections and everything makes sense. I absolutely get where people are coming from. I would say that, I did hear mention of if we grade the garage down, then there would have to be some steps up into the house.
Yes,
And we have plans to put, a ramp in the garage so that, that would be mitigated for them to be able to, get up and down.
that's positive.
And, as I said, this is, the beginning of the process for us, really.
Yes.
The goal is to have us all under one roof together, and the goal is to stay in a neighborhood that we like. I think you made some good suggestions. I did hear you talk about splitting the difference, maybe 12 in front and 12 in back. That is something that we have considered, but that will create an issue with how steep the driveway is. So my wife and I kind of decided that that really wasn't going to be something that we could do,
Yeah.
Especially with the way the winters are.
And that's what you're hearing us very actively talk about that. That is a concern for all of us.
Certainly,
in this
absolutely,
process.
absolutely. I was surprised that as many neighbors seem to have an issue with it. Mike Daly across the street from me, he called in and he was, for it. And the neighbors that are directly adjacent or right across the street next to Mike Daly, I've just spoken informally with them, and they all seem to be fine with it. So I'm not really sure. I can understand, certainly I don't want a big sore thumb sticking out in the neighborhood that I live in. We don't want our house to look terrible.
Of course not.
We want it to look nice, and that certainly would be part of any plan that we had to do with the property. We wouldn't just slap,
Of course.
something in front of the house just to kind of make it, work
A
on the
common
inside.
thing that I think happens, sir, is, there's a lot of times people have feelings about this that don't necessarily feel comfortable coming up and face to face saying that. And, I understand that. I'm someone who's very blunt and willing to say the things that I feel very directly, but not everybody's comfortable doing that.
Yeah,
So
a lot of
sometimes
people
that
don't like
happens.
confrontation. Yeah.
My recommendation, well, depending on what you decide you want us to do, because I'm actually going to leave some of this up to you. Hearing what we said, we can do a couple of things right now. We can choose to say, we're not going to approve this as presented. That's an option for us. Another option is we can say we would approve it, but we'd modify it. Like you heard, that maybe that 12-foot modification example is something that we could do. Or we could just, we are not going to approve it the way that it sits. That's clear based on the consensus here.
Certainly.
But we could also just say, we're going to decline it, but maybe come back, or not even decline it, withdraw it might be better. So you could come back and say, I have a real plan that has been vetted out. I showed my neighbors examples of what we were trying to build, with some sort of a drawing, architectural or something of that nature, that may help your case. But with enough pushback and our own personal feelings, this does not feel like it will pass as it stands.
I understand that.
So if you're comfortable, if you feel that our recommendation of that 12-foot split the difference type scenario could work for you, it feels like you have enough support to do that. But if that doesn't feel right to you, my suggestion is to withdraw until there's some other solution, and what we would call another feasible option, based on the board's hearings. Even though that's difficult, I understand that. I think I'm giving you your choice, but that's what I would probably recommend.
Certainly, I understand that. I think if we were going to do something where we did, like you said, the T and do, 12 in front, 12 in back, it would make a lot more sense on the west side of the house to do that than to try and make that work in the driveway area. And quite honestly, the issue with that is that's living space.
Yes.
Which means that we would have to find someplace else to live during that process, whereas we could stay in our house if we were expanding into the garage and then building another structure. So my wife and I are just going to have to consider, what we really want to do, what we're going to have to do some benefit analysis and decide, as I said, we love our neighborhood, we love living in town, but I absolutely understand that it has to work for everybody. So.
Yep, and the neighborhood does matter, and that is something that is clear in the feel that everybody has supported or or opposed from the neighborhood too. So the neighborhood matters. We all appreciate that. And as a valued resident, we definitely don't want to see you leave, but it is something that we have to compromise in some manner. So that's where we stand. So with that, what is your desire right now? Based on this, I strongly recommend just withdrawing it. And then we, proceed with some other solution as that becomes viable or understood.
Yeah, and I think, what I'm hearing is that the 25 I think it works out to be a 30-foot instead of 55-foot setback.
Yes.
You would be okay with a 42-foot setback as opposed to a 55. If you allowed me to go 12 feet out.
It feels like that's what the board is willing to accept.
Okay.
And I will always throw this out to you. If you're coming back for that scenario and saying, hey, 42, does that work? I strongly recommend giving us something that we can see.
Sure.
And not just for us, but for your neighbors.
Certainly.
Because if you say this is what we're going to do, and they look at it and go, that's really nice. And I'm sure you would do something nice, even with this proposal. But that is a big factor for people. They have to go, oh, that's what it means.
Yeah.
So, you clearly have some opposition in the neighborhood to this request. I would recommend something like that if you take that next step.
Absolutely.
It doesn't sound like,
Okay,
it
I was
sounds
just
like he's going to potentially the other side, or there's a lot of thought. So what would your choice be for what you'd like to do now?
I think your advice is good. We'll just, kind of throw this one out, and my wife and I will talk about, what other options that we've got. And again, this is self-imposed. We want to make this happen. It's not like, something has caused this for us. So I appreciate all of your input. And this is a process for me, I'm really learning what is going to work and what won't work. So
Thank you.
I appreciate taking the time.
We appreciate your understanding, and sorry that this isn't exactly the ideal, but we'll push through.
Okay.
So thank you. And I'd say, please state that you'd like to formally withdraw the application.
My name is Josh Sante, and I would like to formally withdraw my application.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
I wish you the best. I hope we talk to you again with a better success on that.
All right. Thank you again,
soon.
everybody.
Good evening.
I appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you. If you would please come back up, we would like to talk about 96, 97, 98. And before we make any official rulings, we'd like to talk to you and make sure that you understand what we're saying and what our recommendations are, or I should say what our ruling is expected to be here. Are there any questions on what we've said? Do you want me to be more clear on this, or?
Yeah, we're sorry. We didn't know this rules and regulation. This is a new build property. We built from paper. We have in existing house, we bought it. We have a very small space, but I had at that time only 2 kids, so I'm not worried about that. Even they messed up my cars. They are old car. On our new neighborhood, the sidewalks are very slopey, not so nice that they can ride it. Only my driveway is the perfect area. If I pull my cars on the side of on edge of my property line, so my kids can get outside, I can access the stroller easily. So for just to keep safety, we think we can extend the driveway. We talked to the paper persons. They said, yeah, you could do it. And they handed a phone number for the from paving company. We talked to them. They said, it's okay to do it. Yeah, you're right on time. We will do it. And we told them, well, according to our neighbor, we saw neighbor did the same amount of driveway extended. We saw that. And we think they are doing right. We didn't ask them they're doing right or wrong. We saw it's a right thing to do it. And we offer to the paving company, this is okay, you have to pay a flat amount, which is in a big box. We pay them, and we ask them, do we need to do a permit? What are the rules and regulations we need to do it? We're very new. We don't know code conduct, nothing. So they said, we will do it. You don't have to worry it. You are not in trouble. We will handle everything. We'll get the permit. We'll fix it. And we pay them amount. They did it. So we even didn't ask them, get the 5 feet extra. We didn't tell them that. Whatever they did it, So not knowing anything else, they mislead us, misguide us.
Yes.
So we are here today,
I think there may be other avenues that you can take in dealing with this, whether it's, I mean, I'd look at you as a lawyer, right? There might be civil avenues they could take to deal with some of these issues if there's costs involved that were extra. But as far as, and I don't think that any of us believe that there's malice here. I don't believe you did this to be bad people or things of that nature. There definitely are things in place. Faber in general knows that there's permits. They do, hundreds of permits annually, I'm sure. I don't know if it's hundreds, but there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's every house they build, there's a process for this. When they are, the paving company, in my opinion, should have known. I think Faber should know. I think they do, but there's a miscommunication there in some manner. But that doesn't mean that it's correct or that we stand by the decision that was made incorrectly. I feel like you have something you want to mention.
Yeah, I just want, what your point is valid and correct. I mean, there's a little miscommunication. The paving company, the one guy that really caused the problem isn't even here tonight.
Yeah.
And it's, they had no idea. They didn't do it on purpose. They're just trying to get a wider driveway and happened to happen. I understand why they did it.
Yep.
Kind of convenient. The guy was there working and.
Like we already paid them and
Right, yeah.
Yeah. And again, that's something that you will, I don't like to just pass the buck, but I have to. That's something that you'll have to deal with the paving company or with Faber or, I don't know. That's beyond our purview. We are focused on the driveway today and the question at hand. So with that, what we are going to do is, we'll make a resolution here and this will be the answer.
Well,
They're all separate. Remember, I did three separate.
Three
So,
resolutions. I
what
apologize.
what we are proposing and what we're willing to accept is a 30-foot wide driveway
And a 5-foot minimum offset.
and a 5-foot minimum offset from the property line. So you are going to.
Which is the code.
Right, and
Which is code.
And maybe just to be clear, so you guys understand, your driveway as it stands today is over your property line. We don't have the jurisdiction. This board does not have the jurisdiction to approve allowing your driveway to be over your property line. So your driveway will have to be shortened on the side.
Whether we approve it or not.
Whether they approve it or not. And my advice to them would be, they should look at what they would have approved before the driveway went in. So what they're approving is what they're saying, if you had come to them before this had been installed, this is what we would have approved before. And this, as far as the costs, as he's mentioned, I don't think the costs are going to be significantly more, no matter what the approval is, because the driveway has to be cut. And I agree with him that you should pass these costs on to whoever made the mistake. If it's the driveway vendor, whoever that is, I would definitely go back to them because as he said, he understands Faber is responsible for knowing these rules, but driveway construction companies should know these rules also.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's something separate from us though.
Yeah.
That last component.
Right.
But this approval that we're gonna do sounds like many denials. This is what we would do if you had come into us ahead of time. And that's what we would give you. So unfortunately, the driveway's in place. That's the unfortunate part.
So would you be able to compromise with the 30-foot wide driveway is what we're asking?
Well, I don't know that we're even asking. We're just not approving more.
Well, we have to either approve it as 35 or deny it.
No, I have it, I'm approving it under the condition that it's 30.
Right, but they have to accept the condition though, right?
They don't have to accept it. It's
no.
written in there.
Oh, I thought
We're
they
making
had
a
to.
ruling.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
So go ahead. And are there any questions on that before we finalize these variance rulings?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And so just to be clear, it's 30 feet maximum with 5-foot minimum setback, which means the cut that will happen has to maintain a 5-foot setback
Anywhere.
through the whole length of the driveway.
So the parallel, like, right.
Isn't that like
Parallel or just be the minimum 5 feet at the end of your driveway
end of the
And then
house. we are
it can either parallel your property line 5 feet, which means it actually then it'll get wider as it gets closer to your home. Or you could keep it 30 feet the same all the way up, which means that it'll be 5 foot at the end, and then it'll taper, not taper, it'll expand outward. So at your house, it'll probably be more than 5 feet
Right.
from the
The
driveway
nature of
to
the
property
property.
line. Because your property is not square, it's like a pie shape kind of. So that's the nature of that. So that's your choice, whether you want to have it parallel your property line, or if you want to just have it straight 30 feet wide at the entire length.
The other problem that you also have to note is that there is still an approval required from the town highway department for the width of the entrance. And 24 feet wide is the allowable width. And the highway department does not, they used to accept them occasionally, but they do not accept them very often at all. So even if we approve the 30-foot width with a 5 foot minimum offset, it still may get denied at permit time.
Just a question
Yes.
on my part on that. And so on the entrance, so we're talking about the driveway apron, basically, right?
Mhm.
And so 30 foot includes those wings that we put at. the
That
end?
is the tip of the wings.
So so 24 foot has to be tip of the wings.
Yes.
So it has to actually narrow down. So you're actually only having a 20 or 19 foot.
What is it normally? 22?
It's, yes, you're right. So the maximum width is 24. So you're correct. You could go 24 straight.
So you don't have to put
You
the
don't
wings
have to
on.
put the wings in. It's 24 foot of pavement is the max.
What was it gonna be originally before? Was it because be that 24 feet, or was it?
Well, originally, we would have gone 24 foot wide because the garage itself is 24.
So it would have been no
Typically,
issue.
You know, he does put wings typically at the end.
Yeah.
So it would have violated it.
So it would have been 24.
Technically,
So that's okay.
It's really up to
Something
Tim
like
Lessing as far as the approval.
So there's another entity involved in that last question that you just asked. That is not us. And when even if we approved it, if we said you could have it 70 feet wide, he could come in and go, nope, it's 24. And we have no say over that. So,
As
we-
it sits now, the wings are 30 feet. So
Right,
that means
yeah.
the main body within the right of way is
24. Or, you know,
26 or
20. I think they're 2.5 foot wings.
so.
So, yeah, so basically we
25.
cut the wings off. We're pretty close already.
Like the board said, if they approve 30 feet in the right of way, it's still ultimately up to Tim Lessing to approve 30 feet or.
and
require-
5 foot offset minimum.
Well, I'm just talking about the right of way
Yeah,
for Tim
just
Lessing,
wings.
where he could,
If they
you
were
know,
20
have you
24
cut that down to
So
what
Jesse,
he allows.
that's the other thing I think in each of them say 5 foot minimum offset. I know it's in the one, there's 3, but it might be worth having that as a, you decide. I trust you.
I don't think.
Go
it's-
ahead.
All right. Well, you got.
Okay, so with that, these applications are closed, and Jesse, please read the,
All right, here we go.
and this will be a minute.
Yeah, this is gonna take a second. Mr. Chairman, with regard to application number ZBA 2021-096 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has 1, duly advertised and held a public hearing, 2, has considered all relevant information, and 3, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now therefore, be it resolved, the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative. The variance requested is substantial. The variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions. The difficulty relating to the variance was self-created. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approves the variance as presented. And be it further resolved that this approval shall be subject to the following conditions. A 5 foot setback from the property line must be maintained.
I will second that. Seconded by Peckham. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Beth's opposed. Motion carries. Now the next one, 20, Or I'm sorry, 97?
I just have to wait for my tablet. Okay.
No problem.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to application number ZBA 2021-097 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has, 1, duly advertised and held a public hearing, 2, has considered all relevant information, and 3, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, as neighboring properties have similarly widened driveways. Variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative. Variance requested is substantial. The variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions. The difficulty relating to the variance was self-created. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approves the variance as presented. And be it further resolved that this approval shall be subject to the following conditions. The driveway shall be no wider than 30 feet.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Harrington. All in favor?
No wider than 30 feet?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's gonna,
It can only be narrower, and then the next one will be a 5-foot.
oh, the driveway, okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You
The
comfortable with that?
Yeah, the driveway and, never mind, go ahead.
You're good?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed by Mossworth. The motion carries and 098.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, with regard to application number ZBA 2021-098 for an area variance, I move to deny as follows. Whereas the zoning board has, 1, duly advertised and held a public hearing, 2, has considered all relevant information, and 3, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. The variance can be achieved by some other feasible alternative, as the driveway does not have to be 35 feet wide. The variance requested is substantial, as a 0-foot side setback encroaches on the property line. The variance will have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions. The difficulty relating to the variance was self-created, as the applicant already widened the driveway in violation of town code. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby denies the variance as presented.
I'll second.
Seconded by Robinson. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? And this motion carries as well. Thank you. Thank you. And sorry for the situation.
All right, no problem. Thank you very much.
Thank
All right.
Good evening.
Have a good night.
You as well. Thank you. And with that, this meeting is adjourned at 9:23.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of notice for everyone, when we're doing our discussions, we want to make sure that we keep our voices towards the microphone.
Okay.
Thank you, Beth. That is noted.
It was kind of eye-opening on this end.
She usually says, I appreciate you saying that, and I'm sorry that we did that.
No, you're fine.
Where's she from? So do you guys have any questions? Do you have anything that we can do for you? I mean, it's a little bit of a weird thing to watch, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, go ahead.
No, are you closing this, Heather?
I was going to ask if you were all set. Go ahead. I have time. Go ahead.
We're all set. I'm talking to the 3 people that are here that were observing for a class.
You also picked one of the longest meetings we've had this year so far.
Yes.
To attend, because we've had ones where we've been out of here in 45 minutes. So, sorry about that.
But as you can see, there's a lot of dilemmas that happen